Okay, today what I want to do is take a look at how to read a basic pedigree. Okay, so what does pedigree mean? All right, no, it's not just the dog food. Okay, a pedigree is a diagram that traces one trait through several generations of a family. Um, Throughout the school year, I've always enforced how important it is to um, know your family history, uh, through as many generations as you can possibly um, trace. Okay. Sometimes the older people in your family are the best sources of information. All right. So here is an example of what a pedigree looks like. It's kind of like a family tree. All right. But what you'll see is you'll see it filled up with squares and circles, some shaded, some half shaded. Some might have a horizontal line through it. All right. Things like that. So we're going to take a look at what these symbols actually mean. All right, so in a pedigree, anytime you see a circle, that is represented by a female, and a square is represented by a male. So in this example of a basic pedigree, all right, how many girls do you see? Correct. Three. How many boys? Two. Okay. It's not very difficult, all right, to kind of follow. All right, but it is one that is very important when you are tracing traits. And what you'll see is each row. All right, here in this first row, we have the parents, obviously, the mom, the dad. And then in this next generation, we have the kids that they produced. Okay. And down here, we have two daughters and a son. And usually, as I'll show in another slide, the way we write the kids is the way they were born. So daughter one is the oldest, daughter two is the middle child, and then on their third attempt, they finally had their son. All right, so how many generations do we see here? We see two, the parent generation and the first offspring generation. All right, and like I said earlier, we list the kids from oldest to youngest, from left to right. All right, so a horizontal line. What does that mean? A horizontal line connecting two shapes represents a cross or a marriage. Okay, so here, this is the horizontal line that connects these two parents, right? And again, it's something very simple, but yet we need to understand the parts of a pedigree in order to understand what it is we're looking for. All right, so how many marriages do you see here then in this example? All right, I see one marriage here with person A and B, and I see another marriage here between person E and F. So we have two sets of marriages in this pedigree example. A vertical line extending down from a marriage or cross represents that the couple has children. Okay, so here in this example, they don't have any children just yet. Okay, and now they do. So this is the vertical line that we were talking about. All right, so when you look at this example, all right, A and B had three children, C, D, and E. And then over here, this couple, their youngest child, their son, married a woman. And yes, they had one child. All right, so here in example 4, now this is a pedigree that's a little bit more complex, all right, because now we're tracing, well, you tell me, how many generations do you see? I see one generation, two generations, three generations, and four generations. So each generation is represented by a row. All right, so the question here is how many couples have children? Okay, well, let's take a look. We'll start from the top. All right, A and B, they had children. G and H, they had children. We go to so there's two couples. Then in the second generation, only one couple had children, and that was E and F. So we see three couples so far. The next generation, all right, N and O had, well, how many children did they have? They had five. Now, some of you are wondering what this line is over here. I'll get to that in a minute. All right, so how many couples had children? Excuse me. One, two, three, four. Four couples had children in this pedigree. All right, so how do you show twins? Okay, in a pedigree. All right, that was those two lines that we saw in the previous slide. All right, so here in this case, in this pedigree, couple A and B had four children. All right, they had two daughters before they had a set of identical twin sons. All right, so how do you show traits? Okay, so what do we do with those circles and squares when we're trying to track down a trait, whether it's, the baldness gene, or maybe it's a cleft chin, or maybe something as silly as being able to roll your tongue. All right, so if we see a square that is not shaded, that means they do not have that trait. If it is half shaded, that means they're a carrier, kind of like it's heterozygous, right? If you remember that. If they have a full shaded square or circle, that means they do show that trait. So if we were looking at a cleft chin, this boy would have the cleft chin. This boy would carry it, which means maybe their children will have the cleft chin. But right now, this person does not have the cleft chin, and this person does not have a cleft chin. This line here that goes through the square or the circle just means that they are deceased. Again, pedigrees of family trees. The older the people, as we know, we kind of die off. Okay. All right, so here's a quick pedigree on a specific trait. So here we have a couple. All right, we have the mom, we have the dad. All right. The mom is heterozygous. The dad is homozygous dominant. All right. And they had three offspring. They had a heterozygous daughter, homozygous dominant daughter, and a heterozygous son. All right. So when you fill in the Punnett square, all right, as you can see, it's a 50-50 chance of their children either not having the trait or carrying the trait. And that is a basic indication of how to read pedigrees. And we will take a look at a few more over the course of the next week. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to review the video again or reach out to me for further assistance. Thanks, and have a good day.